Part 5: The Effect of Therapy, or What's the Price of Truth? 3 days passed. Silence. No calls, no messages from Donna. Alex tried to convince himself it was for the best, that the adventure was over and now he could return with a clear conscience, well, almost, to his studies, his debts, and his search for a regular job. But in his soul, doubts and a strange, incomprehensible anticipation clawed at him. He checked his student email and saw a message with no return address. Subject: Thank you. The message contained only a short link to an anonymous money transfer service and a long string of letters and numbers. His heart sank. He clicked the link and entered the code. A figure appeared on the screen. $50,000. $50,000. He blinked several times, rereading it. $50,000. He leaned back in the old chair, which creaked pitifully. The air in his lungs froze. Alex exhaled. It turned out he'd been holding it all this time. Next to the amount was a field for the sender's comment. Just 2 words. For freedom and for insight. Don't stop. He laughed. Quietly at first, then louder, until it turned into a hysterical, heart-rending roar that brought tears to his cheeks and made his stomach churn. This wasn't a fee. It was an investment. In him. In his strange, nascent, absurd, and effective method. He hadn't slept all night. In the morning, half delirious from lack of sleep and shock, he opened a new file, set a password using a random set of characters, and wrote the first line. First capital received. Not a salary. Not a handout. Not payment for services. This is payment for dismantling the cage. The client, it seemed, had not only survived the anesthetic-free operation but had spread the wings everyone thought she never had. I wonder what this will lead to. A week later, while flipping through the online version of a society magazine, he came across a gossip column. Sokolov's heir breaks off her engagement. Father is furious, but daughter has displayed unheard of in her heart. Donna Sokolova, daughter of renowned entrepreneur Michael Sokolov, has officially announced the end of her engagement to Tom Logvin. Rumor has it that Mr. Sokolov Sr. was furious, but his daughter has shown unexpected firmness. Not only has she called off the wedding, but she's also invested her personal funds in a startup producing eco-friendly home goods and enrolled in ceramics classes. She looks different, remarked one anonymous acquaintance. Calmer. Or more alive. It's hard to tell. Alongside is an amateur photo. Donna, wearing an apron and a streak of brown clay on her cheek, held a crooked, obviously homemade cup. Her smile was hesitant, embarrassed, but hers. Genuine. He went into the nearest CAF, bought the most expensive coffee he could now afford, and stepped outside. The sun was shining. He caught himself automatically scanning the crowd for not just people, but potential clients, or those he could help simply because, spontaneously. At the entrance to a small bakery, an elderly homeless woman was struggling to maneuver a heavy cart, overflowing with cans and bottles, onto the high curb. Alex approached, silently took the cart by the handle, easily lifted it, and moved it onto the sidewalk. "Oh, thank you, young man," she mumbled, smiling toothlessly. "It's nothing," he nodded and continued walking. He took a couple of steps, stopped, turned back, pulled out 2 crisp 20s, and thrust them into her hand. "For hot soup," he muttered, not looking into her astonished, watery eyes, and quickly walked away. Thus began the story of Alex Dobrodrug, who at 21, by chance and out of desperation, became what his encrypted diary later described as a noble manipulator. With $50,000 in a separate work account, a bitter aftertaste of doubt and the sweet taste of opportunity in his heart, he knew he had just opened the door to the strangest, most exciting, and perhaps only possible career path. He didn't know where this would lead. He didn't know who would be next. He didn't know how long he could balance on this fine line between therapy, fraud, and charity. But he knew one thing. Now he won't stop. An electronic diary entry, no names or contact information, entry 0. Something happened that caused my internal ethics bureau to completely malfunction, crash on a blue screen, and reboot into cynical philosopher mode. Let's call it a therapeutic heist with a plus sign, with elements of mental surgery and subsequent charity. The new anonymous account contains a sum I don't even dare put into words, lest I jinx it. Suffice it to say, it could free me from thoughts of my daily bread for a year, maybe more. The money came from Osoba, whom, during the turbulent years of my adolescence, I sincerely considered the embodiment of everything wrong with a world of abundance and heartlessness. Now, it seems, I've become something of an amateur exorcist for her, who, for a hefty fee, exorcised the demon of someone else's will from her and left her to be torn apart by her own, long dormant. And it seems she not only didn't break, but actually woke up. Paradox. I hardly lied. I was cruel, but honest. I took the money, but gave something more than a sedative or advice. It was an act of social surgery without anesthesia, performed by a student with a scalpel made of his own resentment and a cognitive behavioral therapy textbook. And the patient, waking up, decided that the young surgeon deserved not just a fee, but a bonus for his courage. What to do with this money? Returning it, that would be hypocrisy. Spending it solely on myself would be a betrayal of what had been born within me on that windy embankment. I'd already begun to pay it off. I'd given 2 20s to a random woman. It smelled of weakness and vanity, but also relief. So the mechanism was working. I take from one and give to another, like Robin Hood. I'm practically a psychologist with a poor relation complex and a strange sense of humor. So, I state a fact. I, Alex Dobrodrug, 22 years old, with a diploma on the horizon and doubts filling my entire inner space, have inadvertently invented a profession. I'll come up with a name later. For now, let's just call it Noble Manipulator. First operation completed. Code name: Lettuce and Clouds. The client has been evacuated from his comfort zone of discomfort. The 5-digit fee was received with astonishment and a slight feeling of nausea. My conscience has been temporarily switched to upgrade mode. Postscript. The cup she was holding in that photo was horribly crooked. But damn, it was made by her own hands. For the first time in her life. That's worth more than any fee. Perhaps that's the whole point. Not to make them happy, happiness is a vague concept, but to make them alive. Even if that means putting on a mask, lying about the little things to tell the truth about the big things, and charging an exorbitant amount of money for it. An ironic, vicious circle, but nonetheless. I wonder who's next.